How did one single machine change warfare forever? Well, picture this. A battlefield, soldiers charging across open ground, and then they're just mowed down by this relentless mechanical stream of bullets. This wasn't just some new weapon. It was the industrialization of combat itself. And at the heart of it, the machine gun.
You see, the machine gun was so much more than just a firearm. It was a factory product, really, a symbol of industrial power unleashed on the battlefield. So in this explainer, we're going to trace its incredible journey. We'll start with how it was invented, how it empowered empires, then see how it became this devastating engine of trench warfare. And finally, we'll look at its lasting legacy on combat even today.
All right, so where did this all begin? Let's dive into the dawn of automatic fire. We really need to go back to the core invention here, that incredible technological leap that took us from these kind of clunky rapid-fire weapons to the world's very first truly automatic gun.
Okay, so just look at the difference here. You've got the Gatling gun. Yeah, it was fast for its time, but it was totally manual. You had to physically stand there and crank it to fire. Then comes Hiram Maxim's invention in 1884, and it's a total game changer. Why? Because it used the weapon's own recoil energy to automatically load the next round. That's the secret sauce right there. No cranking, just a continuous stream of fire.
And the result of that innovation? Absolutely staggering firepower for the era. We're talking up to 600 rounds per minute. Just think about that. For armies that were still equipped with single-shot, bolt-action rifles, that rate of fire was, well, it was simply unimaginable.
And that's really the crucial point. This was the first firearm to harness its own energy to keep firing. You just hold down the trigger, and as long as that ammunition belt is feeding in, the gun just keeps on going. That, right there, is the very definition of an automatic firearm.
Now, you might think a weapon this powerful would first see action in a huge European war, but that's not what happened. Its first major use was actually as a tool for colonial expansion. It became a weapon of empire, and it created a technological gap so huge that it led to some of the most brutally lopsided conflicts in all of history.
This famous little rhyme from the time, it sounds almost playful, but it perfectly captures the brutal reality of the situation. It became so well known because it boiled everything down to a simple, chilling truth. If you had this one piece of technology, you had an almost unbeatable advantage.
And if you want a really stark example of this, just look at the Battle of Omdurman in 1898. You had a British-led force with just 4 Maxim guns facing this massive army of Sudanese warriors. And the results? In just a few hours, something like 20,000 Sudanese fighters were killed or wounded. British casualties? Minimal. I mean, that is the very definition of asymmetrical warfare. The difference? The machine gun. So, what happens when those European armies finally turn this devastating weapon on each other? Well, in 1914, we found out. The machine gun became the horrific, iconic engine that forged the Western Front and the trench warfare that defined World War I.
Suddenly, its defensive power was just absolute. Trying to advance across open ground against a machine gun, it was basically suicide. So what was the only logical response? You had to dig. You had to get into the earth for any hope of protection, leading to these vast networks of trenches.
And it didn't stop there. In front of those trenches, they strung up these massive, tangled thickets of barbed wire. This wasn't just a simple barrier, no. It was a system designed to slow down attacking soldiers and funnel them, channel them, directly into the machine gun's interlocking fields of fire, a death trap.
So you put it all together. The trenches, the wire, and the machine guns, and what do you get? A horrific, bloody stalemate. Frontal assaults became almost impossible, which led to years of brutal attrition warfare where millions, just millions died trying to gain a few yards of ground.
You know, this quote, it really shows you just how unprepared the old military mindset was for this new reality. You had generals who had built their entire careers on glorious cavalry charges, and they just could not wrap their heads around the fact that this one industrial weapon had made centuries of their tactics completely obsolete overnight.
And the scale of this was just massive. It was industrial. Just look at the Marne front. In 1914, the German army had about 3.5 machine guns for every kilometer of the front line. By 1918, that number had jumped to nearly 32. That's almost a tenfold increase. War had officially become a matter of mass production.
Of course, armies had to adapt.
They started developing these new, almost scientific tactics to use the weapon in different ways. Take the machine gun barrage, for instance. This treated a whole group of machine guns like they were miniature artillery. They would fire indirectly, arching their bullets over their own troops' heads to suppress enemy lines or just saturate an area where they thought a counterattack might come from. It was a whole new way of thinking about firepower.
But that stalemate couldn't last forever. Something had to give. The sheer dominance of the defensive machine gun forced every army to innovate, to evolve. They had to figure out not just how to counter the gun, but also how to change the way it was used for a new era of mobile war.
So this really sets up the dynamic that's going to shape the future of warfare. You've got the problem. The machine gun made the defense way too powerful, making any kind of movement across the battlefield almost suicidal. And then you've got the solution, the invention of brand new weapons, countervailing weapons specifically designed to be immune to machine gun fire.
And the most famous of these solutions? The tank, of course. It was literally a tracked armored box on wheels conceived to do one thing: roll right over barbed wire and trenches, completely invulnerable to the small arms fire that had pinned everyone down for years. It was the key to breaking the stalemate.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to this quote from a Canadian soldier at the Battle of Amiens in 1918. He said, "Without the tanks, I'm afraid it would have been a hopeless task." That tells you everything you need to know about the impact they had. But here's the twist. As warfare evolved beyond the trenches, the machine gun wasn't just the problem anymore. It actually became part of the solution for a new mobile battlefield.
So after all this, what is the machine gun's ultimate legacy? Well, its impact on warfare was absolutely profound, and believe it or not, it's still felt on battlefields to this very day.
Let's just break it down. The machine gun's core impacts are huge. It completely ended the age of cavalry charges. It defined trench warfare in World War I. Its dominance is the very reason the tank was invented. And maybe most importantly, it shifted the entire focus of infantry tactics away from just manpower and onto raw firepower. It truly, truly industrialized the process of war itself.
But if you want to know its most lasting legacy, it's this: the development of portable automatic weapons. The core idea that sustained automatic fire was adapted into lighter weapons that a single soldier could carry. This concept, giving incredible firepower to small squads, forms the basis of pretty much all small unit tactics, right up to the modern day.
So when you look at the whole story from Hiram Maxim's workshop all the way to the modern battlefield, it's clear the machine gun fundamentally proved that industrial technology could completely dominate and redefine the art of war.
And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. If the machine gun was the disruptive technology that changed everything back then, what's the machine gun of our time? What's the technology that's doing the same thing today? Is it autonomous drones, AI, cyber warfare? What is it that's poised to rewrite all the rules of conflict all over again?